So today I want to talk about Mulan and gender and the internet. I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but it seems the internet these days is becoming more and more saturated with just every flavor of gender toxicity and garbage imaginable. Pretty much whatever gender you identify with, there's a whole internet genre dedicated to telling you why you suck as your current self and what you need to do to become a valid person. If you're a woman, you're a pick-me. If you're a man, you're a beta. Unless you watch this incredibly bigoted podcast by a guy who sacrificed all his brain capacity for a bicep. And do I even need to say what trans and non-binary people go through every day? I mean, it's just not okay. It's crazy going back and watching this movie from 1998 and realizing it had a more progressive view of gender than half the internet can even conceptualize right now. So I'm gonna go through each song and talk about how they portray the expectations placed on people who live in a society and have a gender. And after each one, we're gonna talk about why that song is the sensitive, functional, wholesome perspective on gender that we need right now as a society. So let's get right into it.
When we're through, we can't feel like we're through. You can't feel.
Mulan has an amazing soundtrack, not just for how its songs work individually, but how they collectively tell a greater story. Keep that in mind because it's going to be important later on. Honor to Us All is just the first part of this narrative. It's a song meant to teach Mulan the expectations of womanhood. So for each of these songs, I went through the lyrics and just kind of listed the expectations laid out. So we'll go through the lyrics and kind of just point out each one. First off, women are expected to be clean and hygienic. They're expected to have the devotion of men, to have great hair, to marry a good man, to have good taste. They're expected to be calm, obedient, hard workers. They're supposed to have good breeding, whatever that means. And of course, they're supposed to be skinny. Women are expected to bear sons, to be soft and pale, to exude serenity, to have balance and beauty, and finally, to be perfect. Yeah, so super easy, am I right? I mean, I know I definitely don't feel crushed under the unrealistic beauty standards set by corporate dudes selling makeup and everyone else being so good at it. How do you not get mascara all over yourself? Please tell me now. I don't understand this. Send help. Please. Haven't been able to get this off. It's obvious from Mulan's reactions to all this that the song is intended to be sort of satirical. It's meant to criticize society's unrealistically high standards for women, and the way certain criteria are so specific to the point of excluding large swaths of people from society's definition of the perfect woman. Throughout the song, we can see Mulan is uncomfortable with all this poking and prodding. She doesn't seem engaged with the process of getting dolled up like she is with making a strategic move on the men's board game. And it's clear as she runs out to join the other girls in line that she doesn't fit in with the rest of them. She's not as graceful, she doesn't know the choreography, she stumbles over her dress. And did you happen to notice how many of these expectations for a woman were just blatantly defined by her relationship to a man? Women are supposed to have the devotion of men, to marry well, and ultimately to bear sons in the service of the emperor. The amount of times it gets mentioned in this song is just too many for this to be in earnest. It's nice to hear the writers acknowledge how women's identities have been tied to men for so long and still are in a lot of ways. One of the very interesting things about the Mulan soundtrack is how the singers apply pressure to Mulan, similar to the overwhelming societal pressure to conform to your assigned gender. In this song, Mulan's relatives and dressers are constantly singing rapid-fire little phrases, almost singing over each other, basically overwhelming her with information, which is another way the writers make it feel like Mulan is in over her head. But at the same time, in subtle ways, they are putting her under a lot of pressure. Guard our girls and our future implies they are depending on the girls to be the future of their lineages, an attitude that makes Mulan extremely anxious that she will uproot her entire family tree should she fail to impress the matchmaker. The underlying pressure is also felt through Mulan's interactions with her mom. When she first arrives late, her mom is disappointed in her. As simple as it is, this behavior is the punishment that comes with not complying to society's expectations. And of course, after the matchmaker disaster, Mulan is publicly shamed and humiliated and endures even more disappointment from her family. Shame is a huge tactic used throughout the song to try and motivate Mulan to comply with the expectations. The first line is one of the dressers saying, "This is what you give me to work with," which is just so passive-aggressive and so real. And then there's the "even you can't blow it" from Mulan's grandmother in the bridge. The feeling is that people's general opinion of Mulan is that she's just not very competent as a woman, and that's how they pressure her into wanting to do all this to become better. Do you really want to continue to be a failure? Here, put on this fancy lip gloss, then you'll be a real woman, not like that sousier you were before. These situations are so accurate to the real world pressure placed on men and women to perform in certain ways. The entire song is about what Mulan's family and society think of her. Nothing in it is about what Mulan wants. Even as she prays to the ancestors that she will do well, she keeps glancing back at her mom and even clarifies that the reason she wants this is for her family tree, not for herself. And that's a great portrayal of how that pressure seeps into your head, even when the people who would put that type of pressure on you are not around. There are certain things that we grow to believe about ourselves that arguably we might not have picked up had it not been for the pressure surrounding us from every side to be a certain way. We all want to fit in, and we mold our identities subconsciously around what's popular, specifically what's popular for our wider gender, what's acceptable for that gender. And here Mulan is choosing to want to impress the matchmaker because that's what every single person in her life wants her to want. Alright, let's shift our focus a little bit. From the amount of biting satire in this song, you might walk away with the belief that it's condemning the traditional idea of femininity entirely, encouraging girls to reject the expectations in the song in favor of just becoming a tomboy who likes playing board games because the only way to be a valid woman is to be more like a man. But if you did walk away with that idea, you would, in my opinion, be wrong. And this is why Mulan is the cure for the strong female protagonist problem. I actually feel that this song, while openly criticizing the pressure to conform that society puts on women, also wants to express the divinity of feminine traits when they're natural and voluntary. And I get this idea from the little bridge that Mulan's grandma sings her before she runs out to join the other girls. Beads of jade for beauty, you must proudly show it. At this point in the song, the instrumentation changes. The singing is slower and less rapid-fire overwhelming, and the bright woodwind and percussion instruments are replaced with a sweet legato theme played on strings.
Ancestors, hear my plea. Aid for beauty.
To me, this feels less like the societal pressure put on Mulan to do well, and more like her grandmother giving her a last affectionate, encouraging pep talk. And yet the lyrics are just as full of societal expectations as anything else. One could argue that beauty is the most insidious of the expectations for womanhood in the modern world. And yet here, it feels less like the shame for not having it, and more like a poetic appreciation for an inherent beauty and femininity. Not one that society pressures Mulan to have, but one that she simply already has just by being a woman. That Mulan should feel proud she is feminine, not ashamed that she isn't. A big part of why it feels this way is Mulan's reaction to this part of the song. In every other verse, Mulan reacts skeptically to all the traditions and expectations. But here she seems to be smiling as if she knows what her grandmother is doing is sweet and appreciates her for it. As if she really can, for once, feel proud of who she is.
A woman!
This message is brought to you by the subscribe button. Hit it now. So being a woman on the internet sucks, which I know, super original, but for real. There's pretty much nothing you can do without getting attacked by everyone on all sides. If you embrace femininity and do everything you can to take care of yourself and improve your appearance, people will call you a tryhard. But if you don't shave your legs or wear makeup, people will call you unhygienic. If you like dresses and pink and Barbie dolls, people call you basic. But if you like sports and camo pants and black and Netflix and, I don't know, being short, apparently, people call you a pick-me. What I love about Honor to Us All is it sets up Mulan's personality as a very clever, noble person and shows us that she doesn't necessarily enjoy the typical feminine rituals expected of her. And by these traits, you might assume she's just another quirky, not like other girls, strong female protagonist who has value because she's more like a man. But it has that one moment where the true beauty in her femininity is shown, and in that moment, she seems to embrace it as well. This song is really less praising Mulan for her lack of femininity and more critiquing society for placing any value judgments on her femininity or lack of it at all. It shows us that she's a good person not only through masculine traits but through feminine ones as well. She interjects in the men's board game, and that seems to be considered a masculine activity, but she also helps a little girl whose doll was taken away, and that kind, gentle gesture feels more like a feminine trait to me. Mulan is not characterized as a full-on masculine or feminine character, but a blend of the two. And the way the song is framed, it doesn't condemn her for her masculinity or her femininity. It simply introduces us to her character in a likable light, which is such a good example for little girls that they can embrace both their masculine and feminine sides in whatever way feels right for them, and they shouldn't feel judged for doing so either way. That they can think about and feel uncomfortable with the expectations placed on them by society, and that is a valid feeling. Did I mention that this is a freaking good movie and you should watch it right now?
Before we're through, Mr. I'll make a man.
Does anybody else feel like Mulan's face structure changed when she joined the army? Guys, I think Mulan actually invented mewing. Yeah, we're going out of order because honestly, I feel like Mulan's character arc works this way, and don't ask, I just like juxtaposing this song with Honor to Us All. Where Honor to Us All was about teaching Mulan what it means to be a woman, this song is all about teaching Mulan what it means to be a man, and it is just as full of subtext. Once again, let's go through the lyrics and list society's expectations for men. This is hilarious, guys. The very first thing Shang says about the soldiers in the song is, "Did they send me daughters when I asked for sons?" Basically, what I get from that is that his expectation for these men is they will be the opposite of feminine, and that's just too real, honestly. Men today are relentlessly shamed for showing any smidgen of femininity, and it's frankly disgusting, to say the least, and it causes way more problems than it solves. Anyway, next up on the list, we got Cool Under Pressure, On Fire Within, which is interesting. And interestingly enough, this song actually uses the word pale to shame the men, as opposed to Honor to Us All, which told Mulan a woman should be pale. It probably has more to do with bravery than actual skin color, just based on the context, but it's another way this song pounds it into you to avoid being perceived as feminine at all costs. Men are expected to be wise, athletic, swift, to be an unstoppable force of nature, to be strong, mysterious, suited for war, and obedient. For all its shaming of femininity, did you notice that this song actually does share a few traits with Honor to Us All? And those traits just happen to be calm and obedient. I think this is super interesting. Bear with me here, I might get a little existential. So, gender constructs are usually something we use in society to sort the people around us into categories. You act and look this way, so therefore you must be a man, which means you have this certain subset of responsibilities in the system. And now I know what to expect from you and what my relationship to you needs to be, etc., etc. It's a way to keep society orderly by some definition of the word, but obviously it's incredibly restrictive. There aren't only two types of personalities. I mean, not everyone is gonna fit into the one or the other. But the key here is that both lists of expectations come with these two words: calm and obedient. This means that no matter what list of expectations you're born into, you will be expected to conform. You will be expected to serve the emperor and the expectations of those who came before you. You will be expected to put away any part of you rendered taboo by the system. And whether you're masculine or feminine, I think that rings true. It kind of sends a chill up my back thinking about it because the concept of obedience without question is so dystopian. It begs the question, who or what are we being obedient to? And it foreshadows the resolution that we will one day break free of that. Anyway, moving on to my analysis. Again, a lot of the meaning of this song comes from the actions and reactions of two parties. In Honor to Us All, it was Mulan's reactions to the dressers. In this song, it's the soldiers' reactions to Shang. Throughout the song, it's clear that the soldiers are being crushed by the weight of the expectations Shang is putting on them. It's not just Mulan who isn't cut out for this. Even the people who were born men aren't masculine enough for Shang. And that's interesting because it brings to the surface the concept that gender is a performance. These expectations are taught. They are not just something gifted to you by nature that you'll have for all eternity. Something I noticed about both of these songs is they both come with the connotation that Mulan needs to fundamentally change herself to be considered a real man or woman. In Honor to Us All, it begins with one of the dressers saying she's going to turn this sow's ear into a silk purse. And this song, the title is literally Make a Man Out of You. Like, you're not originally a man, which I know Mulan isn't, but Shang is technically directing that towards the whole army. I mean, what I'm trying to say is both songs carry the connotation that you have to change who you are to be accepted as that gender. Meaning you aren't going to be born knowing all the strictures of being a man or a woman. And what's worse is you have to prove yourself. You have to prove that you know those strictures before gaining respect from the people in the community as being that gender. Mulan is not respected by her fellow soldiers until she proves that she can do the masculine activities assigned to them, and failing to perform at her matchmaking ceremony means her entire family isn't respected by the community at large. This song also takes on the same tactic Honor to Us All used, and that's shaming Mulan in order to get her to conform. Although this song is a lot more aggressive with it, which is just another way it expresses the aggressive nature of masculinity. But it uses the same tactics of putting down the men for being pathetic, spineless, clueless, and so on. And do you really want to be such a failure your whole life? Here, carry this massive weight up a mountain, then you'll be a real man. Which again, so realistic to the pressure men and women are under in real life. How many times have we seen ads telling us we need silkier, bouncier curls to be a real woman? Or that we need to reject the notion that women are people and just start blatantly manipulating them to be a real man? I mean, it's basically your typical evening news at this point. It would be so funny if it wasn't literally true, but anyway. Just like Honor to Us All, this song isn't all critiques of traditional masculinity. I mean, the entire song is a training montage, so by nature it's meant to show improvement over time. So despite being riddled with shaming tactics and the pressure to conform, it overall leaves a positive impression. That because all this has happened, Mulan and the other soldiers have grown closer and improved themselves in a very masculinity conforming, athletic way, but it's improvement nonetheless, and it's depicted as such. It doesn't downplay the physical feats encouraged by masculinity, and thus it shows strength, both physical and mental, in a positive light, while still not forgetting to let us sympathize with the soldiers who are being heavily pressured to change themselves. I think it's worth noting that when we hear the soldiers lamenting about the difficult tasks, their lines are not actually sung out loud, but rather they're presented as internal thoughts.
I'm never gonna catch my breath. Say goodbye to those who knew me.
That's meaningful because it calls attention to how men are discouraged from showing any weakness, and just from expressing their true thoughts and feelings to people in general, which is a perfect segue into...
Anyone who acts otherwise will answer to me.
Ooh, tough guy.
So men are not allowed to have feelings, and that's bad. I mean, when the only valid way to express your feelings is through anger, men will typically tend to react with anger. What a surprise. There is so much drivel on the internet with men nowadays, it's literally like the end times. I mean, the alpha male incel movement was already horrible, but now we have looks maxing, which is like diet red pillism, and I'm just gonna say it, It comes from being insecure. There you go. I said it. You're a beta. Go cry in the comments. No, but for real, when men feel emasculated, they will do pretty much anything to be taken back into the pack and respected. And if left unchecked, this breeds misogyny. And yes, men need to be held accountable to not be misogynist, but if we're being completely fair on the subject, we also need to criticize the system, because that feeling of being emasculated comes from society's expectations for what a man should be, and them feeling like they just don't live up to those expectations. And if I'm being honest, this song specifically doesn't do a ton to combat toxic masculinity, aside from showing us the soldiers' internal dialogue and letting us sympathize with their feelings of being inadequate. If a man were to feel alone in not measuring up to gender norms, it could help to see that depicted on screen in a sympathetic light. He might realize that it's not a crime to be less than perfectly masculine, and that it's not taboo to talk about those feelings. And hopefully that would let him feel that he can take a bit more time to really explore himself before diving into internet toxicity. But the true cure for the gender madness comes in the way the movie is resolved. It's drag. They save China by dressing in drag, and I love it. The literal theme of this movie is that it's good to break gender roles. I mean, how far ahead of its time can a movie be? This shows that it can be okay and even powerful to explore your femininity as a man. And that, truly, I think, could be the cure for toxic masculinity. If they see that depicted on screen and they see those characters winning, they might feel a little bit more okay with expressing their own gender in unconventional ways. Are you starting to understand how this movie could literally save the world?
I cannot hide who I am, though.
Reflection is the third and final side to this lovely trifecta of gender. It comes at the point in the story after Honor to Us All, but before I'll Make a Man Out of You. So Mulan has been taught how to be a woman, but she hasn't yet been taught how to be a man. And the reason I think this song fits as the third side to this triangle is because I don't think Mulan really found her true self in manhood either. I think she could have just as well sung this song after failing at masculinity in the army, because what really taught her who she was wasn't society's boxes for masculinity or femininity, but her own ingenuity, her leadership capabilities, and that she was able to prove to herself that she could accomplish great things while not fully conforming to either gender. Society's woman would never fight a man, and society's man would never use a fan as a weapon. Mulan found her true self by blending the two, and that is why I think Reflection comes last in this 3-point masterpiece. This song is short but incredibly impactful. It perfectly conveys Mulan's distress at all this pressure to conform, and it wastes no time in doing it. In fact, I always want this song to go on longer. It's honestly more about not understanding who you are than about defining Mulan's actual characteristics, but there are a few things that are implied from the lyrics that I think are worth mentioning. As mentioned in Honor to Us All, a woman is serene and calm. A woman is obedient and responsible to her family tree. A woman is meant to marry a man and bear sons. A woman is perfect. But Mulan is not perfect. Mulan is not meant for traditional womanhood. Mulan is not what her family expects her to be, and Mulan cannot hide her true self. I feel the imagery in this song needs no explanation. The way Mulan hides her face from her father is a perfect way to show that the shame from her mother and dressers is really being internalized and getting to her. And the water and then the shrine showing Mulan's reflection like a taunt. The reality of her biological gender staring her in the face as she wonders why she can't just be what society wants her to be. She takes off the makeup on one half of her face, literally showing the divide in her between her masculine and feminine traits, which only cause cognitive dissonance for her insofar as they contradict society's expectations for what a person should be. In the end, when she saves China and is honored by everyone, and she does so by not hiding those traits, but by embracing them, that's when she's able to come to terms with that divide. It's storytelling at its finest. I mean, what do you expect? It's Mulan. It's a genuinely human narrative that intelligently appeals to the viewer's emotions and turns a needful and critical eye on something that's harming our society, and something that truly we need to wake up about today. It's okay to not be a perfectly feminine woman, but it's okay to be one too. And it's more than okay to not be a perfectly masculine man. In fact, can we please try, just a little bit to do that, please? I promise it will make your life better, not repressing your own emotions all the time. Express yourself. Let your reflection show who you really are. Don't take what society gives you just because it's what they want for you. Find what you want for yourself. And maybe don't raise your eyebrow at a man the next time he wears pink, or orders a salad or something, or at a woman the next time she says she likes lazing around watching Netflix. In fact, anytime you feel like judging someone for their gender expression for any reason, I invite you to consider watching Mulan instead. Or, doing literally anything else, because literally anything else would be better than perpetuating this dystopian future we live in. Thank you very much.
Khan, let's go home.
Oh yeah, and A Girl Worth Fighting For is great too. So hey, if you've made it this far in the video, you actually win an award. You're the coolest person ever, and you deserve to join my Discord server and chat with me about nerdy stuff. Also, comment down below what your favorite Mulan song is. Any answer is wrong, because they're actually all the best. And hit the like button if you like this style of more analytical video. I'm honestly still trying to pin down what my channel is going to be and what type of content I'm going to focus on, so any feedback is super appreciated. And if you want to go the extra mile and support me even more, consider checking out my membership tiers or joining my Patreon, link in the description. I want to take this opportunity to shout out my channel member AJ Mack. I literally can't thank you enough. We've actually been running a little writer's critique group together, and that's been a lot of fun. I would love to read and critique some more of you guys' writing, so if you want to get a piece of that, consider hitting that join button. But if not, no worries at all. I still appreciate you so much. All right, I think that's everything. Everybody stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.